listen, you'll have to take me out of commission, cause dissing me ain't gonna get it. My self-esteem is prolific, so when I say I ain't tripping, you know.
Welcome to 3Con Commentaries, and this is your boy MagMongoSlade, and today we're going to do our massive Ring of Honor review. Your boy spent his whole morning watching Ring of Honor Final Battle and looking up kind of the responses from the show. And what we're going to do here today is talk about Tony Khan's media scrum, which includes the ROH television deal. We're also going to talk about the show in general. So what should we do first? Should we talk about the show first? Or should we talk about the Ring of Honor deal first? Let's talk about the show first. Let's do things in order. Let's do things in their proper order. So, match 1. Rush and Dralistico versus AR Fox and Blake Christian. In a match that I called, But Why Does It Exist? Right? Why do we need to do this? Why at all? Dralistico. Interesting little web of nonsense that came around with this guy every time he pops up somewhere. People are like, hey, that mask look a lot like Mystico. Mystico, if you don't know, was Sin Cara. This first Sin Cara before fucking Unico took the mask. So let's try to do this very slowly, as I understand it. Mystico is a huge star in Mexico. Mystico gets a WWE contract. He takes it, becomes Sin Cara the first. But because the name Mystico is actually owned by, I believe it's AAA, they just make another Mystico, which ends up being this guy, Dralistico. So, Mystico the first, the original Sin Cara, he flames out in WWE, goes back to Mexico. He changes his name to like Miss Disease or something like that. Eventually, he gets the name Mystico back. So, he has his name back. So, Mystico the second is now Dralistico, which is why he has the same mask as Mystico. Yeah, that's confusing, right? And I didn't even go through all the name changes Mystico went through. That's the purest form of my understanding of why this guy has this mask and a similar name to the original Sin Cara, aka Mystico. But they lose to AR Fox and Blake Christian in a match where the finish was absolutely botched. The fact of the matter is, Dralistico kind of kicked out and the referee counted 3 anyway. But some people see it the other way, where, he kicked out too late. And the 3 count was already done. Either way it go, the finish was botched and ugly. And it was a great way to start the show with a botched finish. Anyway, Rush losing. For starters, Rush being in this match and losing. That sucks. That's stupid. Something tells me that they were probably supposed to win, but I don't know. Blake Christian, things have been looking up for him since he left NXT, I guess. He's back on the independents where he belongs, and he has been doing some of the same stuff he's been doing the entire time. Not having a steady job and just bumping back and forth. He lost his girl, lost his job. Everything's not looking so good for him. AR Fox, as we mentioned before, is a journeyman who's been around forever. But I can't believe they hired Rush, and this is what they do with him. This guy he's a top guy. Rush has all the potential to be a top guy. You have this guy on the show, and this is what you do with him. It's absolutely boring. Moving on, Athena wins the ROH Women's Championship, defeating Mercedes Martinez. They built this story off of Athena wrestling 10 years on the independents and now finally beginning to be herself. This is why she's become more physical as of late. While Mercedes Martinez is coming off of 3 months of, I don't know, she was injured for 3 months, I think. Whatever it was, she was gone for 3 months. They built the story off of their history in Shimmer, which looks to be old as hell. I'm talking 10, 15-year-old footage where clearly it's very old because Athena was in WWE for several years. And this footage from Shimmer is before that. So, and she says, well, I spent 10 years on the independents before I wrestled in the other place. I'm like, okay, sure. So here she is, Athena. She comes out here to win a world championship with a toy googly eye in the middle of her head. Now, there is some, mythology about the third eye, but to turn it into a googly eye that kind of rolls around. Like, you know, one of those eyes that you would see on a kid's toy where the eye roll around or whatever. It's stuck in the middle of her head for most of the match. I can't stop looking at it. I can't stop looking at this thing in the middle of her head. It is so distracting. Oh my God, what the fuck? And it doesn't help that Athena has the goddamn charisma of wet bread. So, of course she wins because the only thing good about her is her finisher. But let's move into some interesting business. And that Athena has a lot of words for a lot of different people. She has words specifically for people who think she shouldn't be working so stiff, and what the difference was between WWE and AEW. So let's start with there first. So Athena in the post show scrum says, when I got to the other place, it wasn't necessarily about the wrestling. It was about entertainment, which isn't bad. We tried that. It wasn't a fit for me. But I think a big difference here is that one, I'm good in the ring, and it's taken a while, and I think I've proven myself to TK, oh goodness, and just showed that I can do both. But mostly for me, personally, especially with the Ring of Honor Championship, this is a wrestling championship. I am a wrestler, which I am a wrestler is now just becoming code for I am boring as fuck and I have no personality outside of I watched wrestling when I was a kid and I continue to watch wrestling now, and wrestling is my entire life and I couldn't think of anything else to do, so I'm just going to be a wrestler. That's what I'm a wrestler is code for. I'm boring as fuck and I have no interest outside of wrestling. And I'm not interesting outside of wrestling. So put me in a ring. That's the only thing I'm good for. But her commentary about working stiff is interesting. She says people forget, this was before the show, she said people forget that the girls can hit just as hard as the guys. I have to sit there and see John Moxley and Jericho and Wheeler Yuta and all these guys beat the tar out of each other, and I guarantee you if I was a man, I feel like there wouldn't be as much backlash or anything like that. It's all these old bloated farts that want to sit there and tell us, oh no, we need to go out there and look pretty. And then they complain when it's a dance. They complain when we hit hard. Get over it. We're out here to be just as good as the guys, and we give it our all. We put in all of this time and effort to hone our craft, and I feel like sometimes we are underappreciated when we do things like that. Okay. I can see why you might feel that way, Miss Athena. I might understand it. Question is, there's hitting hard, and then there's looking unprofessional, and your shit looking dangerous. You've crossed into that second piece of business where your shit looks dangerous. Specifically that match, which I guess the girl's name was Jody Threat or something like that, where it looked like somebody's going to hurt themselves. You know, it wasn't a physical Gunther or Sheamus, we're going to tear your chest up kind of match, which nobody I think would have complained about. It came across like Perry Saturn and that Job guy on, what was that, Velocity or WWF Metal or something like that, where, you know, he dropped him on his head on purpose. He was just brutalizing him. The latter is not fun. The former is an acquired taste, but the kind of thing that most wrestling fans can get behind. You know, most people can get behind a very physical contest where two guys are striking or beating the tar out of each other. The girls can do that too, and some people get more into it than others because I know some guys don't like very physical work rate from the girls. I get that. And I get why that might be frustrating. At the same time, though, that match looked more like Perry Saturn on WWF Metal or Velocity, where it looked like Athena was going to murder a jobber, and people were just going to sit back and watch. The idea that, oh, they're just working stiff. It's like, well, that came a little bit later as an excuse. But hey, I work stiff is not even a character. So I don't care if you work stiff or not. It's not a gimmick. It's not a character. It's not fun. And the fact that she's been thrown in a broom closet for, I don't know, 2-3 months and now just given a title because, well, somebody's got to have it, I guess. Somebody's got to carry that cross. And since Jesus ain't around, it might as well be Athena, right? So there that goes. But, yeah, it's not, people don't want to see you work hard. And I agree that some people should be okay with you coming across differently. because the dance part is even worse than the whole physical match part. I would rather the match be physical than for it to be, gymnastics. Because at least that's something akin to pro wrestling. But she really should shut the hell up and stop complaining so much. Like, this girl doesn't ever have anything positive to say. And besides, like I said, her personality is I'm a wrestler, which is boring. But boring ain't never stopped Ring of Honor from pushing anybody. I can tell you that much. Third match, Shane Taylor Promotions versus Swerve in Our Glory. This match was based off of Shane Taylor and Keith Lee's history together as the Pretty Boy Killers, which was a tag team on the Independents a long time ago, before Keith Lee went to WWE. Okay, so the vignette before the match was about Shane Taylor talking about Keith Lee leaving him was the best thing that ever happened to him because he went along to Ring of Honor and started revolutionizing six-man tag team wrestling. And I just said to myself, oh, okay, you revolutionized having partners. I guess so. JD Griffey is incredibly skinny. Again, I've never seen this guy before in my life. But I was actually not... I didn't hate him. All right, he was okay. He's built like olive oil from Popeye. I'm just talking about incredibly lanky and skinny, but he does MMA inspired stuff. So he's doing like judo and Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and it was okay. His guillotine choke definitely left a lot to be desired in this match, but his strikes were okay. I didn't walk away hating him as much as I was just kind of like, well, he was a guy that existed. He was present, Anyway, of course, this entire match was built off of Shane Taylor and Keith Lee, but it also had the subtext of Keith Lee and Swerve and their beef. First, Swerve refused to fist bump Lee during their entrance, which of course showed no respect to Keith Lee. Keith Lee had to take that one on the chin for some reason. During the match, Keith Lee hit Swerve by accident with like a forearm shiver. Swerve laid out flat, then got up and walked out. He left Keith Lee alone. And that was interesting. All right, so that was like effectively the heel turn. Of course, it does nothing in the end because Keith Lee won the match anyway. He won anyway. So, all right. There was an interesting spot in this. There was a couple of interesting spots in this match. Keith Lee caught Shane Taylor. Now, if you've ever seen Shane Taylor, he's a big dude. I'm talking big guy. I mean, he built like a baby mama. He built like, somebody, a sack of laundry. Big dude. All right. Just big guy. He jumped off the top rope and Keith Lee caught him. Really good stuff from Keith Lee. He didn't do much with him, but he caught a big flying guy. Got to be like 350 pounds or something like that. Caught him in midair. That was great. There was a spot in this match where this JD Griffey or whatever jumped on Keith Lee and he caught him too. But JD Griffey is built like a 17-year-old. But he started yelling at Keith Lee about somebody's going to kill him. I think he said mom's going to kill you or something like that. I'm like, what's going on here? In any event, he put JD down. So I was like, that was interesting. I thought they were going to tell a story that Keith Lee was actually going to turn on Swerve, but nope, that didn't happen. Anyway, Keith Lee ends up hitting the Big Bang Catastrophe, or what they call the BBC, and he ended up winning the match. So Shane Taylor and his vengeance, I guess, against Keith Lee is thwarted. Well, how about that? Anyway, I hope Shane Taylor enjoyed the paycheck. Hopefully he gets a job. The guy can talk. I hate his body type, but the guy can talk at the very least. I've always been a big fan of Shane Taylor and his vocal skills. Just wish he would get his body together. All right, fourth match. Dalton Castle and the Boys versus Brian Cage and the Gates of Agony. This was for the Ring of Honor 6-man championships. A match that I felt was entirely too long and probably wasn't necessary. But at the same time, I am a big fan of Dalton Castle, and I'm becoming a big fan of Toa Liona. Toa Liona is like, the Samoan guy on the Gates of Agony. He's pretty cool. He kind of botched a little bit when it comes to his double Samoan drop spot, where he picked up the Tate twins, aka the Boys, and he gave him a Samoan drop at the same time. Interesting. But he looked pretty good in this match. He gave me big Jacob Fatu Umaga vibes, and I love that. The guy's great. Khan, I've seen enough of Khan because I saw him in Ring of Honor. He's just kind of generic big dude. I wish they would give him something, something that would make him stand out, but it's real unfortunate. In terms of the Boys, I think this might be the first time the Tate twins have wrestled as the Boys without their masks. So the Tate twins usually wear masks, like masquerade masks, when they're the Boys. This might be the first time I've seen them without them. Whatever. They're OVW guys. That's how I know who they are, because I used to watch OVW TV, even though I do watch it occasionally here and there. I don't know what we're supposed to do with this information that the Embassy is now the 6-man tag team champions, considering they're not featured on any television. I don't understand what we're supposed to do with this, and I know this information completely against my will. All right, moving on to something else that happened to me against my will. Wheeler Yuta and Daniel Garcia. But first, we have to talk about Top Flight. So apparently, Top Flight wrestled the Kingdom. That would be Matt Taven and Mike Bennett. You know that guy, Matt Taven, former Ring of Honor World Champion, main event in Madison Square Garden, Matt Taven. That Matt Taven. The Matt Taven that I don't like, therefore him doing a job to Top Flight, A-OK with me. The fact that I didn't have to watch it. Ha ha ha! Even better. Who better? Nobody. Anyway, Top Flight is in one piece, so nobody's hurt. So start the clock until Top Flight gets hurt again. Either way it goes, 2.0, who I guess they don't have a name in AEW. I don't care who they are. I know them as 2.0. So they accosted Top Flight to start an argument saying that they're glad to see that they've been able to finish a match without getting hurt, which made me laugh because I like that. Then they started a fight. So Top Flight and 2.0 started the fight. It ended up with Top Flight jumping all over the place. And then they got into the ring where Skinny 2.0, Skinny 2.0, said that ROH died because it was full of flippy flop guys like Top Flight. And the only person who could save it is Chris Jericho. Then Fat 2.0 said his nipples get hard thinking about that tag team, the hat trick that they're going to force Claudio into when they put a purple hat on him and when Claudio gets beat by Jericho. All right. They portrayed it's going to be a clean sweep for the JAS on this show. And then Wheeler Yuta came out there with his fake New Japan theme. I think, why would you come out with a fake New Japan theme with all the shing? It's kind of like, oh, come on. Could you try harder to be a New Japan guy? You listen to New Japan themes, it's all shing, like swords clanging against each other and stuff. It was like, why would Wheeler Yuta have a sword getting unsheathed or whatever in his theme song outside of phony New Japan stuff? Moving on. Daniel Garcia, oh boy. This match was going to be fun, right? What they call it, modern day Rock versus Austin. more like the modern day Barry Horowitz versus Skip. Anyway, this was 15 minutes of absolute torture. These two guys couldn't be more boring. Daniel Garcia on the promo said that he's going to beat Wheeler Yuta at his own game because Wheeler Yuta is a pro wrestler. And he thinks I can't do pro wrestling because I'm a sports entertainer and I'm going to show him otherwise. And I just looked at that shit and I was like, man, if you don't shut the fuck up, please shut the fuck up. Can we end this? Hopefully this stuff is over now. I really will. Hopefully it's over. In any event, Wheeler Yuta won the match via referee stoppage. 15 minutes of pain. What's the verdict of this? Pain. This match was 15 minutes of pain. God, these two guys suck so bad. But the finish was a referee stoppage. Ref stoppage! With the elbow strikes to the head. And the referee just says, oh, Daniel Garcia, he can't stand no more. Had to stop it. Okay. Whatever floats your boat. I'm glad it's over. I'm as glad it's over as you guys are. Jesus Christ, this sucks. Hopefully they never wrestle each other again. Hopefully, after this trilogy of matches that these people supposedly like, it's over. And I'll never have to look at these two guys in the same ring again. Really, really, really hope so. Then we got to the serious business of the evening. The vignette for FTR versus the Briscoes. So FTR Briscoes 3, the dog collar match. This match was bloody, physical, a really, really, really good match. Was it the best dog chain match I've ever seen? Or dog collar match? Probably not. I've seen quite a few really good dog collar matches. Then most of them are the same. You know, you use the collar as a weapon. You hit each other with it. You whip each other with it. You pull one guy from one place to the other with it. You know, and they did all of that. You know, Dax yanked Mark Briscoe from the top top rope, and he landed on a bunch of chairs. It was a really cool spot. Dax smashed the referee with a chain, so the ref was bleeding. They did a ref bleeding gimmick in this match. Okay. Dax wrapped the chain around his own head and did a flying headbutt. They did a doomsday device with the chain wrapped around their arm. FTR did this to the Briscoes. So there was a lot of stuff happening in this match with chains being wrapped around stuff, chains getting whipped. Guys fought into the crowd a little bit. It was very physical. I do think, and I'm going to probably lose some credibility with some people. This match is fucking overrated. Like, I heard so much about it over the weekend. Oh, it was an epic match. Oh, I can't believe it's so good. This match is so incredible. Like, they had better matches than this. I think their first or second match is both better than this. This match was good. Don't get me wrong. And it was a nice change of pace from the other matches. But it was pretty generic. When you look at, hey, they're going to hit each other with the chains. Yes. They're going to pull each other from one place to another. Yes. They're going to whip each other with the chain. Yes. They're going to use the chain as part of your attack or whatever. Yes. All still pretty generic stuff. The finish came with Jay Briscoe wrapping the chain around Dax's throat and face and pulling on it, kind of like a crossface. And it looked like Dax had actually tapped out, and the referee just kind of ignored it. And they called it a ref stoppage because Cash couldn't get back in the ring to help. So the Briscoes won. I'm like, okay, good. I'm glad the Briscoes got a chance to win one of these matches. It was about time. But it was a really good physical match. I really enjoyed it. Great match. But it wasn't the epic, amazing, most incredible tag team match I've ever seen. Most incredible dog collar match I've ever seen. I know people have been, that's sort of, it feels like paid marketing for people to really get you to buy this show. And I'm saying, if you want to see anything from this show, this is what you need to see. Absolutely. This is the best thing on this show. And it is a absolutely really good match. But it ain't the best match I've ever seen in my life. I mean, come on. Let's relax a little bit. So after the match, the Gun Club actually attacked FTR and beat him up. Then they got on the microphone and said that the Guns won't stop until they kill FTR's legacy or something to that effect. I like the Gun Boys. I think that they're pretty good. They have some confidence. They got some size to them. They seemingly know what they're doing. I like the Gun Club, FTR losing. Lost twice in 1 week in high-profile matches. Lost to the Acclaimed, then turned around and lost to the Briscoes. I know this has led a lot of people to think that perhaps other companies are going to start taking their titles away from FTR, and maybe they're going to end up dropping the AAA belts and the New Japan belt soon. And because Tony Khan, he was smart enough that he knew when Kenny Omega was going to lose the Impact title, he got it on his show so that Kenny Omega could take his first pinfall loss on AEW TV rather than having him lose it on an Impact show. So he might be trying to get in front of that too, maybe because he does get probably the creative for FTR at this point. that maybe he was told by Conan or Gato or whatever, who's the booker for New Japan, hey, we're going to take the titles off of these guys. And he figures, if I beat them on my show first, it won't make the other teams look that great, because I'll have my tag team champions beat them. Then I'll have the Briscoes beat them. So when they lose to whoever they lose to in AAA or whoever they lose to in New Japan, it won't look like their guys are beating our top guys, but like a second or third string tag team over here. So it's not good. It's not the burial that it sounds like. It's a tactic of like what WWE did with NXT, while saying, hey, NXT's a third brand, while they were competitive. Once the competition starts to get a little bit more one-sided, it became, it's developmental. It's just a little change in narrative. But I'm not upset about it. FTR is probably not upset either. They've had a really good string of matches. They had a great job against the Acclaimed. They had a great job against the Briscoes. They're really good. I just wish, I want more for them than they have to want for themselves at this point. And I'm not going to be one of those super FTR fans that are like, oh, I can't believe they lost. No, they did the right thing. The Acclaimed are the tag team champions and FTR needed to win. And then the Briscoes are one of the best tag teams in the world and one of the best tag teams ever. And it's okay for FTR to lose to them too. But now we have to see where we go from here. Because at this point, what you've done is you had FTR lose to the Briscoes and to the Acclaimed. So what does it really mean for the Gun Club to beat them? It's like, well, FTR still has to be considered a really great tag team in order for the Gun Club to get anything out of beating them, right? So how do we rehab FTR to get them back to a level where everybody sees them as an elite tag team that can beat anybody on any given day, and then have the Gun Club beat them and make the Gun Club look like an elite tag team who could beat one of the best in the world? Because as it sits right now, FTR looks like a really credible tag team, but they're kind of punch drunk. Considering, like, no matter how good of a fighter you was, if you're coming on a 2-match losing streak and you lose a third match, people are just going to say, okay, you're on the downslide, right? So you have to bounce back. There needs to be some bounce back for FTR before they go into this longer term feud with the Gun Club, which hopefully ends with the Gun Club actually getting a win and not just getting beat on TV and that's it. So, I'm suggesting they have more than one match, of course. I'm suggesting at least 3 matches. So FTR can win the first match, but the Gun Club could look pretty good. Gun Club win the second match probably by cheating, and then they do a 2 out of 3 falls or whatever the fuck third match, probably at the pay-per-view or something like that, which would solidify the Gun Club as being pretty good, even whether they win or lose. That's my idea of what will happen. And what Tony Khan will probably do is put the Gun Club out there fucking Wednesday, beat them, and then call it a day. But that won't do anybody any good, let me tell you. The Gun Club are pretty solid, so I would actually give them an opportunity. All right, speaking of opportunity, Juice Robinson, out of nowhere, from the clear blue sky, gets a ROH TV title match against Samoa Joe, and of course does the job via Muscle Buster. The vignette told the story of Samoa Joe elevating the TV title to be on par with the world title. And that Juice, of course, is upset that nobody knows who he is because he spent all this time in Japan. But he's wrestled some of the best wrestlers in AEW history. And he's going to add Samoa Joe's name to that list. Now, notice he said he wrestled them. He didn't say he won, right? He just said he wrestled them. Everything about Juice Robinson is absolutely pathetic except for who he married. He married a really, really hot chick. That was Toni Storm. Other than that, Juice Robinson is a loser in absolutely every way possible. And losing this match, and the match was boring as fuck, and it was stupid anyway. And he scrambled Samoa Joe's brain, which is not really his fault, as much as the metal guardrail did its damage. So what happened is Samoa Joe had him in the coquina clutch outside the ring. Juice Robinson fell backwards, which was probably the spot. And Samoa Joe banged his head on the metal guard railing. Samoa Joe, who has a history of concussions, smashed his head against the metal guard railing and laid there for a little while. He just kind of was like, I heard the Tweety birds like tweet, 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 tweet going around his head. And I was like, yeah, Joe's probably not doing too good right now. Now, he, of course, is able to fight through it and come back and finish the match. But, man, maybe they need to look into their concussion protocol, and maybe they need to have a sit down with Samoa Joe about him banging his head on stuff. Probably not smart. Anyway, even with 6 concussions, he could beat Juice Robinson. Juice Robinson sucks ass. Tony Deppen, indie wrestler Tony Deppen, who was I think he's a former Ring of Honor television champion during the final days of Ring of Honor when it was a standalone independent entity. He was in the crowd, so they're doing the old NXT stuff. And so I'm guessing he's going to get brought in next to feud with Samoa Joe. This ought to be fun. Okay, Tony Deppen's pretty cool. He looks like a teacher. I think he actually is a teacher. I've seen him in person. He just looks like an average Joe. Just an average guy. But he wrestles a very physical style that I actually enjoy. So, okay. In the main event, Claudio Castagnoli versus Chris Jericho for the Ring of Honor World Championship. In the vignettes, Jericho says that Claudio is black and white, and the Jericho Appreciation Society is the beautiful land of Oz in Technicolor. So, of course, if Claudio wins, he becomes the Ring of Honor World Champion. If Jericho wins, Claudio has to join the Jericho Appreciation Society. And this match is physical. They basically just chopped and European uppercutted each other. Had a fairly solid but short match. And then the finish. The finish that I saw on Twitter before I even watched the match. So the finish is Claudio catches Jericho in the giant swing. Jericho is swinging around in circles, and at about the 30th revolution, Jericho starts to tap the mat. He just gives up. And therefore, Claudio wins a world championship via giant swing submission. And we got all of the people in the whole wide world who just love everything AEW and thus Ring of Honor to try to make excuses for this absolutely shit-bricked finish. This was one of the stupidest looking finishes I have ever seen in my entire life. Everybody's talking about, well, you've never been spun so fast if you don't think you can submit from that. I'm like, look, you're not talking about a kid on a jungle gym. You're not talking about some NASA scientist in a spacesuit getting spun around in a circle at G-force. He can't spin that fast. Claudio is a human being. All right? He can't spin that fast without hurting himself. So I get how he can't escape this because he can't stop Claudio from spinning him around in circles. It's not like Jericho tried, but he can't stop him from spinning around in circles. That's a really good way of submitting. But people are talking about the pain, quotient of this. And we're sitting back looking at this, and I'm just saying to myself, bruh, how do you get a submission out of that? How does that happen? All right. If you're trapped in something that doesn't hurt, but you can't get out of it, okay. That sucks as a finish. All right. But you want to try to use, well, you should see kids on a playground when they're going really, really fast. And I'm like, yeah, I've been on those things. You get really, really dizzy. You get really dizzy and you fall down and maybe you get vertigo. Vertigo. You probably get vertigo. You probably get whiplash or something like that. But you're being swung by a human being. You're probably not going to spin that fast. So Jericho is criticized on Twitter about the dumb finish. And Jericho says, hey, fuckface, ever experienced this move? It's barbaric. I tapped out. You would have shit your pants and cried for mommy. Well, Jericho is playing a heel. And he knows that this was a goofy-ass finish. He knows that. Everybody does. The issue we got here is that nobody believes this is a credible finish. Whether it truly hurts or not. Whether Claudio was reaching G-force spin tactics or whatever is not even in question. Everybody looks at this and thinks it's a joke. How can you in any way rationalize this finish? It made Jericho look so stupid. It made the Ring of Honor World title look stupid. It was the main event of this show. This finish was on the same show as repeated unanswered elbows to the head, which is a legit finish In every form of martial arts and every form of combat sports, if you are not responding to the referee will stop the match. That's a completely legit finish. It's a completely legit finish that you would choke somebody unconscious with a chain. Or he would tap out with having chains wrapped around his throat. Completely legitimate finish. And then there is this. Jericho is being spun in a circle again and again and again. Look, it's annoying. I get it. And it probably doesn't feel too great. But it's not the sharpshooter. It's not an ankle lock. It's not something where you can legitimately break a body part. You know, like bending limbs or something like that is a legitimate submission. This is it just looks silly. It looks silly as fuck. It's goofy, but I mean, come on. I'll give him credit. I'll give him style points. Let's put it like that. I will give you a plus 7.75 for the attempt to be creative. Like, hey, you know what's never happened? Nobody's ever submitted in the giant swing before, so let's do that. And then they did it. And I'm looking at myself, probably not the best way to end your pay-per-view. You probably want to end your pay-per-view with your best move, which, you know, Claudio has plenty of them, but we're still relying on the giant swing to get people interested. And then here's the weird thing. He tapped out in the giant swing, and everybody was surprised. Not happy. Was just kind of like, huh? You know, like Metal Gear, with the question marks over the head, like, And then they were like, okay, Claudio won, yay. You know, like that confused finish. I don't know. Maybe we should have set up that as a submission hold before that. I mean, Claudio could have wrestled some bum, spun him in circles 40 times, and the guy just like, and tapped out or just waved away and gave up. And then we could say, okay, well, at least we see that this is a legitimate way for people to quit. But for the first time doing this, I don't know, man. Like I said, I'll give them creativity and style points, you know. But I didn't really care for the match anyway because I kind of knew. Well, for starters, I knew Claudio was going to win even before it was spoiled for me. And actually, being spoiled didn't hurt any of the matches too much. For starters, most of the stuff that got spoiled, I didn't care about anyway. The dog collar match I did care about, but even seeing that match, I didn't mind that it was spoiled, so it was okay. So the spoiler didn't really affect my enjoyment of the show. That being said, I think it was a pretty strong show. Why? Because it wasn't just match after match after match, which is what NXT has become, which is what WWE shows have become under Triple H. Where it's just like match. They did stuff in between. Like the stuff with Top Flight and 2.0. Yes, do I care about those guys? No, I do not. I don't care about them at all. Not the point, though. The point is they broke up the matches with some talking and showed some other people doing some other stuff. There was some build throughout the show. For instance, you know, Daddy Magic and that other guy talking about the main event and, you know, what's on the line for the main event. And it's going to be a clean sweep for the Jericho Appreciation Society. And they're doing it in front of the crowd, not just backstage. That stuff made it feel okay. It made it feel like a cohesive show. And that we weren't just going curtain up, curtain down on different acts. So, and I liked the Tony Deppen being in the crowd, which was a callback to NXT, where they used to have like the new guy that was going to come in, was sitting in the crowd, and he didn't address the crowd, like he didn't stand up and wave like they would do in NXT. But just having like, hey, this guy's going to be here, or this guy's watching, this is very important. And it did some really good foreboding because they didn't talk about him at any point before the show. They showed him on the screen during that match, and then they didn't talk about him afterwards. So you already know that when he eventually comes in, it's going to be in a feud with Samoa Joe. All right, cool. So those are pluses. The minuses are, I literally don't care about the Ring of Honor roster. I really don't care. And, you know, you're looking at all these guys, man, you're just kind of like, they could really use some better creative, and they could really use some better performers. But it's mostly the creative. It's 99% creative. That, you know, these matches felt like they were thrown together with stories hastily pastiched from footage from the past and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, sure. All right. But Was it worth $40? Absolutely not. No. That's why I didn't pay $40 for it. But will anybody be willing to pay for Ring of Honor? That is the question that we're here to answer now as we talk about Ring of Honor television being a streaming show on ROH TV. Is going to be on Honor Club. So Ring of Honor, for the last 4 or 5 years now, have had their own streaming platform called Honor Club. And for a long time, in the dying days of Ring of Honor, Honor Club hosted many of the Ring of Honor pay-per-views. And, they used to have exclusive pay-per-views. So they would be regular pay-per-views for Honor Club that would be, you could buy it on Honor Club and watch it, or you could buy it through Fight or whatever else and watch it. And then there would be those Honor Club exclusive pay-per-views where you had to have Honor Club in order to watch it. But the one thing that was always true was that Ring of Honor TV was always there, right? It wasn't always up to date because when it aired, who knows? But when it was recorded, who knows? But when it aired, it aired. But that's what they're doing now. Essentially, Tony Khan has just basically said, we can't get TV, so we're going to put TV on Honor Club. So if you're really a fan of Ring of Honor, you're going to have to put your money where your mouth is. Pay $10 to watch Ring of Honor television on Honor Club. Which, before we even get into that, let's go macro to micro, okay? A lot of streaming services, Peacock, HBO Max, Hulu, Netflix, yada, yada, yada. Almost all of them are losing money. All right? The entire industry, Disney, is losing money on streaming platforms. For you to launch a very, very niche streaming platform specifically for a very, very niche pro wrestling brand like Ring of Honor, top tier stupid. All right, just dumb. That's just from the beginning, the inception, the concept of it. It's just stupid. All right, you won't make the money because every fucking body is losing money on streaming. What makes you think Ring of Honor can make any money off streaming? If Hulu and Netflix and Peacock and Disney can't make money off of fucking streaming services, what makes you think Ring of Honor can? No sense. That's the macro problem. Micro problem is Ring of Honor literally has not changed. Again, like I said before, ROH TV was already on Honor Club before. That you used to be able to watch Ring of Honor on the website. So you can watch it on the website. It will also be on Honor Club, and it will also be syndicated 2-3 o'clock in the morning on whatever you wanted to watch. When I used to watch Ring of Honor, I used to watch it on the Ring of Honor website, but it was already on Honor Club. All right. So that means there has been zero growth since you purchased the company over a year ago. Now, I'm not even going to talk about WB doesn't want it and TBS doesn't want it. We already knew that, right? We already knew that. The fact that they put the fucking tag team belts on the Briscoes and the Briscoes can't even be on TV should tell you already that this thing wasn't going to work out the way that they wanted it to. All right. So I think everything that they changed, essentially taking the belt off Jericho, because the old idea behind Jericho being the champion was we're going to try to sell this to TBS, TNT, our partners at Warner, because if they like Jericho when he was the top guy in AEW, they'll love Jericho as the top guy in Ring of Honor. Maybe we can get over with that. That was wrong. It was false. It's a new regime in place that we'll talk about in a moment. Even though it is not nearly as bad as everybody's making it out to be, it is still a new regime in place. That being said, you couldn't sell the show to Warner or anybody else. Nobody else wants it. I get that. But instead of making it more enticing, you're basically just throwing this thing out there and and just accept that you're going to lose money on it. Tony Khan should have swallowed his pride and just packaged AEW and Ring of Honor together. Every AEW pay-per-view, every Ring of Honor pay-per-view on one app. Simple. It would be like WWE trying to create an ECW style site, just ECW stuff, with current ECW material being created. Everybody would look at that and say, well, that's interesting, but I wouldn't pay for that as a solo entity. It's only worth something if you combine it with something else. I mean, the brand is dead. The Ring of Honor brand is fucking dead. Dead. You're better off compiling those two things together. And I get it. Maybe Tony Khan sees AEW as a far more valuable product and therefore can't be combined with Ring of Honor. Well, if that's the case, they shouldn't be taking up so much time on AEW TV, which he has claimed that he's going to stop doing. Which, looking at things now, I'm pretty sure he's going to be right. He will stop doing it because the belts are on fucking people. The Briscoes can't even be on TV. Gates of Agony have never been on Dynamite. Athena is rarely, if ever, on Dynamite. And fucking Claudio is regularly, if ever, on Dynamite. So Samoa Joe might be the only person that's carrying a Ring of Honor title around now that might actually make TV pretty regularly. You can look and see, yes, this is it developmental? Pretty much. All right, pretty much. So you see AEW as being a far more grandiose, a far more profitable entity, and you don't want to diminish AEW by packaging it with Ring of Honor. I get that. But Ring of Honor has no value. What value does this company create on its own? That's going to be the issue here. And people were more willing to buy into Ring of Honor when it was occasionally a pay-per-view like a Final Battle or a Super Card of Honor or something like that. That's probably quarterly. You know, it's going to be every couple of months versus $9.99 a month. That's $120 a year. And then here's the kick in the pants. The pay-per-views are not included. They're not included, which means you're still going to have to buy $40 pay-per-views. And then, or you have to wait 2 months before the pay-per-view is uploaded to Honor Club. So you are already, let's say, 3 months in to Ring of Honor. You're following the storylines. You're 3 months in already. That's $30, right? You've been watching weekly. That's 12 episodes of TV. You're already $30 in. Now it's time for the pay-per-view. Tony Khan wants you to pay another $40 just for that show. Or you can pay him, in some ways, more money by waiting another 8 weeks in order to get the pay-per-view. It's only $20. It cut the pay-per-view in half. You still get the pay-per-view. You only have to pay $20 for it. But you're better off, especially looking at how Tony Khan books this thing, you're better off just buying the pay-per-view and not having Honor Club at all. If you're a Ring of Honor fan, that's the better option. If all the television is going to lead to the pay-per-views, just don't watch the TV. Watch the pay-per-views. That's where the big matches are going to be. They're going to catch you up with the storylines, apparently, give you some highlights, some vignettes and stuff. You don't need to sit there and watch that shit. Or, if you're really a scumbag, you're really sailing the high seas, you don't have to pay for it at all. You'll just pirate everything. You'll pirate the Ring of Honor television. You'll pirate the pay-per-views. Tony Khan is going to lose his fucking ass on this deal. And he got more money than a Saudi prince. He can do whatever he wants. But it's not a good business decision. I'm looking at this thing and saying to myself, I'm not just going to laugh that Warner Brothers didn't want it. I know that Warner Brothers is going through something right now. It's not Tony Khan's fault. Right? It's not Tony Khan's fault that Warner Brothers is on fire. You know, I'm talking like literally they walking around with a fire extinguisher trying to figure out how they got $3 billion in the hole and where they're going to try to cut and save money or whatever. That got nothing to do with Tony Khan. But he's in business with these people, and he cannot do business with them if they're constantly trying to look ways to cut costs. And everything is fucked up on that end. There's nothing much he can do about that. Now, hopefully, Tony Khan is looking at this thing where he can get 100,000 people, which is way too many, to buy a Ring of Honor club or whatever. Then he can double back to somebody and partner up, which is likely going to be his plan. He's going to get 200, 300 subscribers or whatever, hopefully be able to entice more people to join up. So I see maybe in a year, maybe 6 months, depending on the growth of Honor Club now, him going to other streaming services and saying, how about you buy us out? And you can put Honor Club on here or Honor Club on there in order to get out of the standalone game and actually add some value to the fans, which is what WWE did. Because WWE got out of there before they started really losing a lot of money on the network, which, you know, they lost money in the first part of the network and booting up the network. They lost a lot of money because, again, they're in an industry that's tech, you know, and they saw it coming. As more competition comes into the marketplace, it's smarter to partner than to be independent and standalone. So when you see that AEW or Tony Khan is saying to you, we're going to be independent and we're going to have Honor Club for $9.99, you're looking at things saying, okay, this is proof of concept. He's going to see how many people really care about Ring of Honor, and then he's going to package that and go to a network and say, here's how many people are willing to watch our developmental program for $9.99. We will add AEW to this, and it will increase business for this particular app. Will you buy us out? And he will hope Amazon or somebody like that will be interested in doing so. But it won't be Netflix. So Netflix has come out as saying that they're not really interested in sports. Oh boy. Ted Sarandos, the CEO of Netflix, says that Netflix is not anti-sports. We're just pro-profit. And he says we've not seen a profit path to renting big sports, which is what Netflix CEO has said. The word there is rent. If they want to buy something, they will find something to buy, right? You're probably hoping maybe you could package it and sell it. Now, if you've been listening to this channel long enough, you'll know that I talked about this when WWE, I questioned whether NBC was actually going to buy WWE. Talk about the whole kit and caboodle. Right now, they just rent the network for an insane amount of money. It's a rights fee deal. These things get more and more expensive. You know, ESPN is doing the same thing with the NFL. Well, is it ESPN? Well, the NFL has these crazy rights fees. So do the NBA, Amazon, and all these people are just throwing around billions of dollars to rent the rights to big sports for a limited amount of time. Smaller entities like a Ring of Honor or an AEW are going to be in an interesting place. Oh yeah, Amazon purchased the exclusive rights to the NFL. It's right in this article. I'm looking right at it. Goddamn. And Major League Baseball and Major League Soccer to Apple TV. So even if you consider Ring of Honor on that level, which it's not, getting somebody to buy Ring of Honor just as an entity itself, as far as just buying the Honor Club, the rights to restream the product, that's going to be a tough pull. That's going to be a really tough pull. But, you know, it ain't impossible. I won't say it's impossible because I don't know what Tony Khan knows. He has more information than I do. I'm just looking at this thing from a guy who follows the industry and says, you know what? Probably not the best idea. Probably not that great. But here's the thing. There has been a lot of shakeups over at Warner Brothers Discovery. Another Tony Khan friend is out, which of course explains quite a bit of why he just kind of gave up on this and decided to go with the Honor Club thing. But Zaslav has been just cutting people left and right. But, and we know this, we've been paying attention to this. That being said, way back in, I believe it was October of 2022, Kathleen Finch gave AEW a big thumbs up. She's the chief content officer for Warner Brothers Discovery. And she talked about the ratings for AEW and how they wanted to do more and expand the brand or whatever. She's one of the people who are not being fired. You know, she's not one of the people who are being cut. So, yes, Warner Brothers is basically chopping up TBS and TNT and getting rid of people who are very friendly to Tony Khan. Yes, that all might be true. But Kathleen Finch is still the chief content officer for Warner Brothers Discovery. And she gave AEW the thumbs up. So while it looks terrible, it looks absolutely awful, it's not as bad as it seems. Because at least one person in there sees that there is some value to AEW. Doesn't help Ring of Honor at all, because it's a completely different entity, right? That's why Tony Khan needs to be smart and just to compile them, right? She can't say anything if you go out and purchase more product and package it together. Why Tony Khan stopped at Ring of Honor, beyond me. He definitely should have jumped in and just tried to say, anybody who's willing to sell your library, sell even some of it, I need it. Because it's going to be the only way to keep AEW around, is to try to co-opt fans that exist in other places. So if you look at like Pro Wrestling TV, you've got like Women's Wrestling Army, you've got like Warrior Wrestling, you've got all kinds of stuff. You know, Hog, for instance, House of Glory, which I thought WWE was going to buy House of Glory a couple of years ago. Why Tony Khan doesn't try to step in and buy that? Buy it from fucking Master P. Like, he's not doing anything with it. Buy Hog, get the library, or at least buy the library, package it up with Ring of Honor, package that with AEW, and then try to go out and find some more stuff. You need to try to collect as much stuff as possible to make it a destination, a competitor to WWE. That's how you do it. He's got endless fucking money. The only issue would be that the other people don't want to sell because they see what he's trying to do and they would see it. And now everybody's up on WWE's game. Everybody knows that, hell, you could sell the rights to WWE and not sell your entire company to them. That's what Progress did. That's what ICW did. A lot of pro wrestling companies do that. They'll make these deals with WWE. Well, you know, WWE would pay them exclusively for their rights to show their shows on the network. Or on Peacock, rather. Yeah, it's still the network, but whatever. And they don't have to buy the entire company. You know, therefore, they can still operate independently of WWE, but they get the benefit of WWE giving them a platform. Maybe AEW could do the same thing. Maybe that's what the big thing with Honor Club. You put Honor Club out there, $9.99 a month, and then maybe you go make a deal with House of Glory or PWG or whatever to platform their stuff on Honor Club to make it worth more. That's the only option you got here. Because as a pro wrestling venture, Honor Club is fucking finished. If you couldn't sell it in 2018, you can't sell it now. What the fuck are you going to do? Nobody believes that this version of Ring of Honor is in any way the same as the previous. So your only hope is that there are AEW fans that you can entice by bringing in your C, D, and sometimes a B level star to wrestle on a pay-per-view on that show. And let's not get this wrong. Jericho, FTR, Keith Lee, and Swerve, all of those guys, B stars. All right? You may say, Jericho is not a top world champion guy anymore in AEW. He's not. He's a big name, but he's not going to main event AEW pay-per-views in the future. So him main eventing Ring of Honor shows tells you that they are dipping Jericho. Now, he may shoot back up because he is Chris Jericho. He's going to maintain a nice presence on the show, for sure. But he's going to be sort of what Rey Mysterio or AJ Styles is in WWE, where he's a guy, he's a big name, he's going to be involved with storylines, he's always going to be there, but the focus is not going to be on him anymore. So trying to use him to spike the buys for this show, smart. Like when WWE did ECW, they put Kurt Angle over there, and they put Chris Benoit on that show. There was a reason for that, right? These are guys who are getting up there in age. We know that they're stars. They have some star power left. There are people who are willing to sit and watch them. We're going to put them on this show and have them work with some other guys to hopefully elevate them. That's the plan. Jericho's not staying in AEW. It's not staying in Ring of Honor. Everybody knew that. Everybody knew that when Jericho lost the belt, that was essentially going to be it. He probably won't even get a rematch for it. Probably don't even want one. All right? That should tell you right now that AEW is going to keep all of their B stars, people they don't see as superstars, or they would have kept them on Dynamite. Or they would have done Wardlow versus Samoa Joe on this show, on the Final Battle. They didn't do that either. So they want you to recognize that with the exception of maybe one or two people, maybe Joe and maybe Jericho, everybody else is a B-level star. The fucking Briscoes are banned from TV. All right? And with that being said, what are you paying for if you're paying $10? You're paying to see Athena. You're paying to see the Gates of Agony. No, that's not going to work out. But I wish Tony Khan the best. I really do. I don't want to just see people fail. I'm just looking at things from in the crux of AEW's business is slumping. It's not doing that good. So I know Ring of Honor's business can't be doing that great. And to interject another business in here as a standalone, it's got to be a tactic to try to sell it off later. That's the only option you got, is to try to get as many people to buy into this product as possible, and then turn around and tell somebody else, Apple, Amazon, whatever, this is what I got. I'm going to go out, compile more content. We're going to make this thing, pro wrestling fans are incredibly loyal, incredibly passionate about their products. If you can get the pro wrestling fan onto your property, onto your platform, you can, that's a guaranteed whatever you're selling a month. People are going to watch it. And guess what? It's not entirely false. But how are you going to make that argument? It's probably going to be a thing where Tony Khan's going to have to wait until see what WWE does. Especially when it comes to Raw and SmackDown and the television deals and all that kind of stuff. And he's got to worry about his own AEW TV deal too. So it's a big risk that he's taking here. But his options are limited. He's definitely going to need more content. And him saying, AAA and New Japan are going to help. Yeah, how? Are you going to make some kind of deal with AAA where you can stream AAA shows into the United States via Honor Club? If so, that's great. That's a good deal. Because sometimes catching those AAA shows are a pain in the ass. I like AAA. Maybe catching a New Japan show is a pain in the ass, but they got their own streaming service. So they're not going to, help your streaming service when they've got their own. Maybe CMLL will help you. Who knows? But I don't know, man. But let me know what you guys think. What do you guys think about all this stuff? Like, share, subscribe. The show was what it was. But I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.